to the book reader section of the New Indian. Today we have with us P.A. Sabareesh, a JNU scholar of social sciences and an author. And today we are going to discuss his recent book, A Brief History of Science in India. Sabareesh, welcome to this show.
Thank you, Aarti ma'am.
Sabrish, this title itself, if you had written this book, say 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, everyone would have been laughing at this title and this book because the perception generally about India is that it's been a place of snake charmers where you have superstition, where you have too much of religion, too much of religiosity, and science is completely a contradiction when you talk about India. So, how did you write this book and why this title?
The history of science in India is actually a very vast topic, and to have an understanding about the vastness is not a one life job. So it is important for today's generation who expect everything to be given in a in a simpler language, in a lucid context. So for them, the book needs to be attractive, and that is why the title is A Brief History of Science in India, and even the content has been drafted in such a way that even a person who is not from a science background, maybe he's a social scientist, humanist, they also can perceive the book in the best way possible.
We were always told that science happened in the West. It happened because of Renaissance in Europe. And we were told that India really doesn't have any connection with science. So, how did you come up with this?
No, I never thought when during my college days that I would be penning a book. But since my college days, since my early school days, I have been listening about various achievements of Indian science. I had a subscription of a magazine called Science India magazine, which is published by Vijnana Bharati and by Swadeshi Science Movement in Kerala. So the editorial of that magazine and the various articles in the magazine, they always portrayed about how the glorious scientific achievements of India were in the past. But that definitely contradicted our NCRT textbooks and be it whatever came in the media. And even later on during my graduation days also, whatever we read about was what happened after the Renaissance. But I felt somewhere that I had a conviction that the truth has been subversed. It has been hidden from us, and there is a need to research upon the actual contribution of Indian science to the globe, as to what happened even before the Renaissance, what happened before like 1,000 years from today in the areas of science.
Is there substantial evidence to the title itself that there is a history of science in India? And what are India's accomplishments in science historically?
Yeah, there is definitely a history of Indian science. And because our, basically, if we see our subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent itself is a place where lot of civilizational activities has been happening over the last many centuries. And coming into the various aspects of science, because ours was an agricultural based economy, it was an important economy. Agriculture was an important aspect of our economy. And for that, it was important to understand the monsoon patterns. And hence, astronomical observations started happening. And when we say astronomical observation, it's about the distance of various stars, various planets, so as to understand the arrival of monsoon, the going of monsoon.
So, what is the date that you are attributing to this observation of stars? What is the date? Like, what is the time period? Was it when did we discover this?
It's time immemorial, but in the book I have relied upon the observations which we have through the literary evidences.
But you see, when some politicians in the country claim that we knew, we knew cosmetic surgery, we knew all kinds of sciences, we even had rockets, we had aeroplanes. When such claims are made by people, by politicians especially, uh, we as Indians get ridiculed and mocked across the world. Where are these claims coming from? Is this true that we had rockets and aeroplanes and fighter jets?
It is true that we had ideas of cosmetic surgery, we had idea of rocket science. The reason why we are being ridiculed is because we are not putting the facts, we are not putting the proof of the evidence.
So, what is the proof that we had rockets? For
Yeah,
example?
yeah. So rockets is one thing which the term is like seen in the modern perspective. I'm talking about rockets that are used in the military sciences. And the oldest evidence which I have definitely put in the book is like in the 1500s, mid of 1500s, when Vijayanagar Empire had used rockets as a defense mechanism against the Deccan Sultans. And later on, we have a treatise called Akasha Bhairava Kalpa, which talks about rockets. The terms used for rockets is like Agni Nalika, and they use a term called Bana for the rockets. And later on, the rockets were used by the Marathas, extensively by Marathas against the Mughals. It was used by Mysore against the Mughals. And during the Third Battle of Panipat, Marathas had
But
used
by
it.
that time, see, when you're talking about Mughals, you're talking about Marathas, Renaissance had already happened. The British had colonized a large portion of the world. And we know that technology transfer was happening between continents and between civilizations. So, why are you attributing rocket science to India?
No, later on, we have an evidence when the British army officers in India, they had taken a note of this rockets from Mysore and the Marathas, and how they had adapted into the arsenal of the British. One army officer, he had actually taken this rocket from India to the British and have presented it to the then Prime Minister William Pitt, and then he had explained him that how these rockets had created havoc on our cavalry, on the British cavalry, that is their horses. Because when the rockets came, the British horses they just ran out of that battle patterns, and that is when the rockets were adopted into the army of the British, and then they gave the name as Congreve rockets. Because the person who took the rockets away from India, his name was William Congreve. And then we have proof that these rockets were used in the Battle of Waterloo against Napoleon. So we have evidence for this.
What about other claims? For example, somebody made a claim that Indians had the knowledge of cosmetic surgery. That's why, you know, the trunk of an elephant on a human body. That sounded very bizarre.
We have several instances, or we have several references of such incidents in the Puranas. But let me come to you to the latest incident. I'm talking about the early 1700s, when the Anglo-Mysore War was taking place. So there was a soldier in the army, in the British army. He was employed in the Bombay presidency. His name was Kovasji. He was a Parsi by religion, and he was a bullock cart driver with the English East India Company. And when they went for a war with Mysore, he was captured by the Mysore army, and none other than Tipu Sultan was its ruler. So, having been caught as a prisoner of war, Kovasji's one nose and one hand was chopped off, and he was pensioned by the East India Company, and he roamed around for like without a hand, without a nose for 1 year. And in the late 1700s, like 1793, in Pune, he found a surgeon whose name was Kumar. Kumar gave him an artificial nose. He took a flap of skin from the forehead and he had placed the nose into, in the shape of a nose into the, and that actually looked like a nose. And even the front cover also we have a picture that is Kovasji, who is there seen there. And the way the surgeon which is depicted is also depicted here. And the surgery was observed by the British medical officers.
For a very long time, we've been told that India has never been anywhere in the world. Indians are very insular, very inward looking people. They don't venture out. They have never been anywhere. It's the Europeans who've been to the entire world. They have gone and conquered several countries and continents only because of the urge to go out in ships, because they have always been a very, very powerful naval force. Is that true?
That is not true, because 600 years before Vasco da Gama came to India, the Cholas had their colonies in the west, on the eastern part of the no, the Malayan Peninsula, be it the modern day Indonesia, be it the Campacola area. They had a very large colonies, and they had sea navigation, and they were great shipbuilders also. And the thing which we learned, the Vasco da Gama came to India, he discovered the sea route to India. No, that's a syllabus which is taught in the Italy. That's not our syllabus. We have our own history which needs to be taught to our students, to the college students, because there are several aspects of our history which has been westernized, which is being sold to us, and which is a history that needs to be learnt by their students.
So you're saying that we had several accomplishments in astronomy, in medical sciences, in mathematics, and of course also in military science. Then what happened? Why has India in the last perhaps 1200 years not produced any remarkable invention? Why have we been overtaken by the rest of the world, especially the West?
I understand that this is a grave problem, because India has a history of not having recorded its history in the rightest way possible. And that is what which we need to learn about. And most of the historical understanding of the Indian subcontinent comes from the West only. And I would definitely say that not all the historians of the West are biased. There are many historians who have written the truth about what India was.
Whether it's yoga, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's homeopathy, whether it's forget homeopathy, but every traditional aspect of Indian science has been dubbed as pseudoscience by research institutes which have name and fame in the world. What would you say to that?
I think that era is gone, because my PhD is on traditional medicine knowledge and IP rights. And based on my research, I can definitely say that Ayurveda is a science. And by saying science, we say that the methodology of science varies from place to place. So in the West, it is, of course, the Abrahamic religions have given a shape to their philosophies at large, and they have influenced every aspect of knowledge systems. Even in here also, in the eastern part of the globe, the philosophy which we practice as religion or maybe spirituality, even they have influence on science and other aspect of ethics, morality and all. So similarly, the methodology of science, it changes in the West and in the East.
The West often says Ayurveda is, some aspects of Ayurveda is pseudoscience, that these medicines are not effective, that Ayurveda cannot cure cancer. You hear such claims from the Western institutions, and um, big universities who are invested in science. They basically do not take Ayurvedic medicines at par with allopathic medicines, right? So and in many cases they say that Indian traditional knowledge about science is pseudoscience. My point is that one, you are saying that it's not pseudoscience. My point is that on what basis you're saying that it's not pseudoscience when scientific methodology is the same, but you're saying it's not the same.
We had an understanding about how the universe evolved, and it was on the basis of Panchamahabhutas. That is the, we can say, the five elements of nature: water, air, fire, fire, ether. So it is on this basis that all the living organism has evolved. And let us take a very quick example, a household example of pepper. Pepper is spicy, because it has element of fire in it. It has element of Agni in it. And in case you get a cold, that means you have the element of water and wind in you through some, because when the cold breeze comes into you, you get cold because the air is cold. And to take away, you need to balance your body system with something which is opposite to that prakriti or the nature. So that is why in Indian household medicinal system or in Ayurveda, we prepare a simple fluid by boiling pepper in water, because it is hot, it has fire element, it goes inside, it balances the kapha element. Kapha element is basically of wind and water. So that is how it works. And we have an understanding in this manner in all the other aspects also.
So tell me, are they complementary? Is Ayurvedic science and modern science complementary to each other, or are they contradictory to each other?
We have understanding today at this point of time that all medicinal systems are complementary to each other, and all medicinal systems can be alternative medicine system one or the other way. That is where we stand today, because the West looks at the East for many aspects, including Ayurvedic aspects, because there are several things which Ayurveda cannot cure. There are several things which the allopathy cannot cure. So medicinal system is largely getting more complementary to each other.
If your claim is correct that we had the knowledge in ancient times, then why aren't we able to do it on our own? Why are we dependent on the West? Why are we looking for technology in the West? We are looking now in China, for example, artificial intelligence. Why aren't we able to do it ourselves?
We can do it by ourselves, but if we know the how to do it, it is better, it is easier to do it. But we have the fundamental knowledge, we have the fundamental idea, but in case of other countries know the know-how of do things, why not take it from them? There are several aspects wherein, such as the cryogenic engine which we developed for ourselves. When the US did not give it to us, the cryogenic engine technology was developed by our own.
With some help from Russia.
Maybe regarding the procurement of the fuel.
Are you saying that we have theoretical knowledge and we are taking help from other civilizations who have made progress
Yes,
in
yes,
science?
yes. Because there are many scientists for of Indian origin also, be it in NASA, be it in any space agency across the world. There are a large number of Indian scientists who are working there. We are not acknowledging this part.
But then one could argue that, well, they got educated in the West, they got education which is broadly dependent on modern science, and whatever we are studying in schools, colleges today, it is completely based on a Western knowledge system which has developed in the last few hundred
That is where the civilizational aspect has been taken away from us. No, we have been educated in the modern aspect from the Western aspect, and that is where we have left over as to what belongs to us. That is Swadeshi sciences.
What would you tell a critic of India or Indian science if he claims that all other civilizations also had developed their own scientific inventions, their own scientific methods, whether it was Mesopotamia or Sumerians or Egyptians or Greek or Romans? They all had their own scientific inventions and scientific discoveries.
The scientific endeavors are the same in many countries. But the point is, who survived to say it, tell the tale?
Well, the West, clearly,
We also survived.
but the Chinese also.
They also survived. It's quite possible. They also have their own history. But being a citizen of India, I would like to tell my history and listen to others' history. Because ours is a civilization which has a foundation, and we being the citizens of India, we would like to know our history first, not learn others' history first. Know our history first and then debate upon others' history. That is important, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Sabareesh P.A., for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you very much, Aarti.